Hello, happy Thursday. I am gonna talk to you today about enrichment and brain stimulation, mental stimulation for your dogs. This is kind of forgotten about during training for your dogs throughout basically puppies and through the lifetime of your dog. There's so many different ways that you can do this, and especially now that you guys are all of us are quarantined, there's a lot of different ways you can do this. There's so many different household items that you have. You don't have to go out to, any of the pet stores to get some toys. I'm going to show you some toys that I have, but there's some stuff that you have that you don't realize that you can use, that you can help your dogs with brain stimulation that they're probably kind of getting bored. So while you have some cabin fever, they're probably getting some cabin fever too. So I wanted to kind of give you some ideas, help you and your dog or dogs and your family kind of get through this, so you guys can come together, improve the quality of life for both of you, because this is about everybody coming together. We will get through this. It's just a matter of, it doesn't have to be exercise. That's the thing. When people are training their dogs, they think, oh, I need to take my dog for a 5-mile walk, or I need to, do some, sit, stay. Those are all very important. But the other piece of the pie is mental stimulation. Mental and enrichment training could happen as early as 7 weeks when they're puppy, 7 to 8 weeks. So 7 to 8 weeks till when they're a senior, so you can just continue to do this throughout the lifetime of the dog. And there are very varying levels of difficulty that you can do. So I'm just kind of gonna get to it. I have all 3 of my dogs here. I kind of did some of this with them earlier this morning, and it was actually pretty interesting to show them. And I'm going to kind of tell you some different ways that you can do it when you have multiple dogs as well. Not everybody just has one dog. A lot of people are fortunate that they have 2 or 3 dogs like myself. So I'm just going to kind of go through some different things. It's maybe a little bit longer than a 5 or 10 minute video. So I'm going to just kind of go to it. And I'm also going to show you different things that you can put in different things. It doesn't all have to just be peanut butter. Peanut butter is the typical thing that you can use, but it doesn't just have to be peanut butter. So I am going to get to this. One of the things is that people will typically use is Kong. Kong is a very popular one. There's so many different sizes that you can use. I have 3 different sizes. As you can probably tell, I have this one, and then this one. There's so many different sizes that you can use. So typically what people will do is they will stuff this with peanut butter. But you can basically stuff it with anything. You can just do kibble, you can do frozen blueberries, you can do anything. And you can give it to them without freezing them. You can do it with freezing them. I like to do it with freezing them because then, kind of just gives them that extra way to just kind of make it more interesting and last longer. When you put it in the freezer, and some of this I actually learned from another trainer as well, not this specifically, but you can just put it in a dish, or you could wrap it up, but, because it has 2 holes, it's gonna come out. You can just kind of put it in like that. If you have one of these, you can get one of these super cheap at the dollar store or something. But you can just kind of put it in the freezer and then just let it freeze and then just kind of give it to the dog. My dogs are looking at me like, okay, we're getting something. So that's one thing that you can do. If you have a marrow bone, you have a marrow bone or something like that, it doesn't have to be a Kong. It can be a marrow bone. It can be, and I don't have any marrow bones that I can show you. But if you have a marrow bone, if you have, I have one of these as well that I use, that, you know, it's just a ball that has two ends. This actually got ripped up a little bit by another dog, but I don't use this one as often because it's got a little hole. But believe it or not, because it has a bigger hole, the dog still cannot get the treats out of it. So I just put it in and I put one treat in there and they're just pushing this along. This will keep them busy. If you have a dog like mine, this will keep them busy for like 10 or 15 minutes trying to get that treat out of it. My dog Abby, who I had, this would keep her busy pushing it around. It would keep, you know, kept the other two busy for a little bit. And this will keep them busy trying to get that treat out, trying to figure out how to get it. And, you know, it's really good brain stimulation, keeping them busy, keeping them active, keeping them, you know, rather than just chewing on a bone. So this is another good one. Here's another Kong, and I know I'm showing you some Kongs, things that you can buy right now, but I am going to get to some that you don't have to buy. This is another different type of Kong. You can do this. I used this when I had a rescue who had a lot of issues with separation anxiety and needed something that would keep them extra busy because it has multiple holes. I would put a little bit of kibble in there, put some peanut butter in there or pumpkin, freeze it because pumpkin's good for their digestive, freeze it, and then give it to them. So this is good because they have to go to each little hole to get it, and it's tough. So this was a good one to do if you have one of those that really needs to like get that food. So that's another good one, something like that. Now, silicone, and this is one that I learned today, and I was actually pretty excited about it. If you have a silicone pot holder, and these are very popular, that have textured, you know, you have little, they'll have all different kinds of graded ones. You can look them online, silicone pot holders, and you'll kind of see more of what I'm talking about. My mom has like 3 of these. She's had these for years, and when I heard about this today, I was like, oh my God, that is so cool. If you've gone into the pet store and you've looked for a slow feeder, because I have one of my dogs is a fast eater, they have like these flat ones you can put the food in. They're like little mazes and they could eat out of them. It doesn't work for my dog because I have, you know, flat-nosed dogs, so they can't really do it. It doesn't work for their nose. But this is great because you can put some peanut butter on there, or you can put pumpkin, or you can put yogurt. You can put the cheese whiz on here, and then they try to lick it. They keeps them busy with licking it up. If you've read any of my blogs, if you've read any of my calming signal blogs or watched any of my videos on calming signals, licking is one of the calming signals that they use. So when they're licking, and if you've noticed, they chew bones a lot, and licking their bones or licking it calms them down. That's a calming signal for them. So during this stressful time, calming, that's going to calm them down. So this is a great one to use. You have it handy. You probably have one of these. Most people, I mean, I'm not saying everybody has one, but this is pretty popular. I wouldn't just give it to them and leave it for them, because if they're a chewer, they may chew on this, but if they're not, this is a great one to use. You can supervise them the first time, see how they do. But it's a great one because it's got, you can see the bumps and everything. There's some with more graded ones. You can put a couple different things. You can put peanut butter and pumpkin, cheese, you know, you can go crazy. I mean, you can freeze it and then do it. There's unlimited things that you can do with this. You don't have to just think in like, oh, she said peanut butter, just do peanut butter. So I would definitely try that. I'm super excited about doing that with the dogs. So definitely look into doing this, and it's super cheap. It's going to be, you know, it's not as expensive as getting one of the slow feeders. And then if you have multiple dogs, you get like a set of 3 probably for like $9, whereas a slow feeder with the graded thing is like probably $10 alone. So They're not cheap. So look into that if you don't have one already. So that's that. Now, I've been talking about the peanut butter and the food and stuff like that. So here's the peanut butter. When you're getting the peanut butter, one of the things you want to make sure is that it does not have xylitol. I can't really spell it, begins with an X, but you'll see it. There is some peanut butter and some foods that do have xylitol. Xylitol will kill your dog. If they have too much of it, if they have at least a little bit, they will end up in the vet's office. So xylitol is one that it is very dangerous. It is basically the equivalent of them having chocolate, certain kinds of chocolates. So xylitol is an absolute must that you have to check the ingredients to make sure peanut butter does not have xylitol in it, because that is one of the common ones that they do put it in there. But if you're going to be, you know, stuffing Kong or something in there, you can just take, like if you have cooked rice in there, you can take some rice, you can combine it with peanut butter or put with kibble, put some water in there, freeze it. These are just some suggestions that I have because rice is good for their belly. Applesauce, unsweetened applesauce. This doesn't have any xylitol. It's unsweetened. Another thing, I don't know if they have xylitol, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, be surprised what they put in food these days. But applesauce, you know, if your dog doesn't have any dairy problems, you can do Greek yogurt. Dairy problems is a common thing with dogs. But sometimes when dogs have been eating dairy for a long time, it's not an issue. I did have a dog who dairy just didn't agree with her because I just didn't feed her dairy for a long time. And, you know, in error, my parents gave her dairy yogurt one time and it was not a good situation. So moving on. Another thing you can do is you can take a plastic bottle. You can put some kibble in here and then you can put some peanut butter, freeze it, and then have them lick it, try to get the kibble out, you know. You could lay it on the side, not standing up. It's not going to get the same effect. And you get a thicker bottle, not like a flimsy bottle. This is a thicker one, as you can tell the way I'm squeezing it. This will just make it, you know, they like the sound of it. And it's just a different way. I mean, if you drink out of a plastic bottle, you probably have one of these in your recycling bin. And since they're not doing returns, you probably have them sitting around. Maybe you do. I don't know. I'm guessing. So, you know, you can do one of these, freeze it, put some kibble in there. It does not have to be treats. Again, you can do anything that you can have that's you probably used before. I do kibble for one of my dogs because he has sensitive issues, so I don't do treats. And then I just deduct it from his food either that morning or that night. So, and then just put a little bit of peanut butter and then freeze it. And then they're licking it and then, you know, moving it around to get the food. Keeps them busy, you know, just supervise them a little bit to make sure that, you know, nothing's going to happen. But this one's a pretty sturdy one. If you really wanted to make it interesting, you can crackle it a little bit. It's got their attention a little bit. I mean, I'm not a big fan of that, but some people like it. It depends on how much of a chewer your dog is. You know, it depends on how comfortable you feel with that. But yeah, so this is another good one. You have it lying around. So I'm getting into the ones that you have lying around. So you've heard me talk about the muffin tin game if you've watched my videos on my my business page. So here's the muffin tin. Some people, if they don't bake, they don't have a muffin tin, which is fine. I'll give you the other option. And so you just put a couple treats in there. If you have tennis balls, if you play tennis, if you don't, maybe you have ping pong balls, or you can take a couple of their toys and put it on top. Get creative. What's going to cover up the toy? You don't have to, these are just what I have that I've used. but what do you have that you think you can use that they'll figure out how to take out? I've realized with my dog Jackson, he just knows that the treat's in here, so he's not going to get the tennis ball. So I'm probably going to get a couple of the smaller toys that he can actually pull out because he's got the flat nose, and so he's probably not going to take this out. So I've just got to get a different stuffed toy or something that he can actually pull out, because he can smell the food, he just can't pull it out because of his nose. So yeah, and this is what I put in there. I put his kibble in there, and you know, that's what I do for one of them. You could also do something like this. I got this a couple years ago. They're probably a little bit more expensive, but it has a couple degrees of difficulty. This part, the outside part, is probably a little bit more simple because they just push their nose around and they get it. So you can start this off with the easy part. And then, okay. And then this is the more difficult part. So they just push it up and then push it, you know, so that it gets a little bit more difficult. So with difficulty, you can kind of fool around with something like this. And it did have things that you could attach, you know, as they progressed. If you wanted to buy a game, again, you know, it gets expensive when you're buying games, and this is why, you know, you're home, you don't want to go to the store, you can't go to the store, we're quarantined here. So this is what you have at home. Now, if you eat eggs, an egg carton, okay? And so this is going from the muffin tin. If you don't have a muffin tin, if you don't bake, I don't know. I'm not a baker, but I happened to steal one of my mom's. So, so it was pretty old. That's why, you know, she wasn't using it. So it just kind of was like, I'm going to use this. So what you can do with this is you can put, you can get ping pong balls, something smaller than tennis balls. And what you can do is if you wanted to put, you know, a little bit peanut butter on the bottom, put a little bit of the treats or kibble or however you want to do it on there, have them lick it up and get it, you know, and have them go to however you want to do it. But you can do something like this. If you eat eggs, you already have something like this. So you don't have to worry about getting a muffin tin or buying something. So again, this is a household item you probably already have if you eat eggs. So something like this, you know, you already have something. So you're not spending money, only on the eggs. $2 on eggs, or I don't know, I don't buy eggs, but, you know, however much you spend on eggs, and then you're upcycling. Now, this is one toy that I bought, you know, for like $2 or something like that at PetSmart a couple years ago. Jackson sometimes plays with this, you know, he'll push it around and everything like that. But then what you can do, and I saw this from another trainer, which I was like, oh my gosh, that's a pretty cool idea. So you tie a couple pieces of fleece or fabric or however you want to do it around the squares. When you roll it up with treats and then tie it around, and then they're pushing it around and then pulling out the fleece or fabric, and then it's pulling out treats and they're flying everywhere, and they're more focused on the treats than they are after this, but it's just a fun game for them to play. So it's a different game, you know, you've already got, if you have something like this, you know, it's got two different ways for them to use it. You know, they're chasing after a ball with one instance with nothing on it, and then you can use a different way with, you know, including treats by tying something around. You just get creative with it. I'll show you kind of how I did it. So I had the treat rolled up like this, and I kind of tied it around a little bit, and then she pulled it out, and then it kind of went flying, something like that. So whatever would be easier for your dog or harder, however that you want them to figure it out. So if you buy fast food, you know, frozen dinner or whatever boxes you have lying around. You can put a little bit of kibble inside, close it up, put some peanut butter in here, and have them just kind of open it up, because they'll smell the peanut butter and the kibble, and then just have them open it, you know, with their nose and everything, and then licking the kibble and then getting out the kibble. So, you know, it's another kind of way, you know, think about the concept of the water bottle with the kibble in there. It's just the box. If you think they're going to chew on the box, then maybe not. I mean, supervise them, see how they do the first time. It's just a different way to do something with an upcycled household item. I definitely think this is an option for some people. I never would have thought to use a box. Another trainer told me that she uses this. I was like, that's pretty cool. So you've got that right there. And then, or you can take this box, put it in another box, and, you know, like the dolls, the Russian dolls that come out and go crazy, I guess. So you can do something like that if you wanted to. You know, just seal it up with peanut butter and then have them lick it open, and then there's kibble in there. If you don't want to use peanut butter or something else, it'll be sticky for them. So I think that's a really great idea. Or you can use frozen blueberries. Frozen blueberries are great. Green beans, whatever your dog likes for food will be really good. I wouldn't let it just sit there, you know, if you think they're going to do it right away, but something that's going to be motivating them to get it, and that's going to smell really good to them. And then you have a paper toilet paper roll, and then a paper towel roll. And so basically both of them are the same concept. I kind of washed them off so to get the glue off. You know, just took a rag and washed it off. And then you can kind of fold one end like this, and then put everything in the other end. These are freshly taken out of the recycling, so I haven't used these yet. That's why it's harder to do. And then you could put peanut butter at one end or not. Put the kibble in, then close it, and then put the peanut butter on one end. You can do both ends on one end. Same concept as the box that I just showed you. It's just, you know, a little bit different. And it's just a different thing to use in the house that you have. You could watch to make sure that they don't, you know, supervise them to make sure they're not chewing on it. But they probably won't chew on it only because they're licking. I mean, the peanut butter is on the top, so they're going to lick that. And then by the time after they lick it, the kibble comes out. So it depends on how you put the peanut butter on there, but you can watch them to make sure. And then after they're done, if you want to take it away from them, just throw a little bit of kibble to the side for them to focus on that, and then take it away. That's how I would address that issue. Anytime you think they're going to chew on something before you think they're going to get a little crazy, just throw a little bit of kibble to the side and take it away. And it's going to be the same thing for this. It's just a little bit bigger. Or if you wanted to get really crazy, you can put one in, but then that would be they're like chewing on this to get to this. So I probably wouldn't do that. So that's the toilet paper roll and the paper towel roll. Then I have, this is a little toy to get out toys. So I have this, and then they get this out. So if you have anything like this, these are super fun. My dogs are really focused on this at this point. They're not really focused on the bigger part of it, which does squeak. It has the nice crinkly squeaky part that they broke. But even if they destroyed this, you can take toys that maybe they pulled apart and put them in here for them to, you know, take out of. So if it still survives, you can still reuse it to have it, you know, hold another kind of toy that they still have. Sometimes we think, oh, they've destroyed it, let's throw it out. But, you know, maybe we can still use it in another toy. You know, because it can still be upcycled. It's all about upcycling in a time where we really don't have the luxury right now to just run out to the store. Let me see what else I have over here. Got a lot of stuff over here. My dogs are spoiled, as you can tell. um, also, now with multiple dogs, I also sometimes what I do, and I do this usually for clients, sometimes people lose kongs or marrow bones or something like that. You can always take one of these bones, put a little peanut butter on it, freeze it. You know, this has a little bit of holes in it. That'll keep them busy for a little bit. At least it's something for them to chew on. You know, and especially if they're a puppy and they're going through the teething, they like something to chew on, and so it helps the cold part helps their teething. If you have multiple dogs, because I kind of talked about this at the beginning, if you have multiple dogs like I do, kind of giving them all this stuff that has food in it isn't really, depending on if they're resource guarders or not, sometimes can not wind up with best situations. So you have a couple options. You can, if you have crates, you can put them in their crates, which I do. I have crates, and sometimes I'll put them in the crates and they'll focus on the kongs or the balls or the little toy to take it out, and that'll keep them busy. And they won't care what the other ones are doing because they're so focused on what they have. So they have that, and I'll watch to make sure. Because if there's only one person, that's the best way to keep them contained, is to kind of, if you have them in a crate, you can watch them all, make sure everybody's okay. Or if you want to do two in a crate and have one out, which I did today, is I had Jackson out in the floor, you know, outside of his crate, and had the other two in the crate. I had the two most food motivated ones in their crate, and kept the one that wasn't really a food motivated, like wasn't a resource guarder. If you don't have crates, because some people don't crate train their dogs or don't like to use crates, and that's fine, you can use baby gates, you know, to separate them, you know, in separate rooms, you know, to kind of watch what they're doing, make sure they're separated. If you don't have that luxury, you could use a long leash. Like this is a long leash. This is about 10 feet. You could use a 10-foot leash. Even like a 6-foot leash may work. I would not use a retractable leash. I am not a retractable leash fan, only because they start to not break. You can get injured. The dog can get injured. It's just there's a lot of different things that don't work. And so it's just kind of, you know, if you have a longer leash, you can kind of you can attach it to something. If you're holding on to a retractable leash and it doesn't work, you know, then you've got to be like, it's a lot of things that can go wrong. So I'm just not a fan of it. So you can use a leash like this for one dog and have the other dog in a room. You know, you have a lot of different options. Every person's home is different. If you have another person, you could have them watch them in one room. If you're able to shut a door, you can do that. You know, there's a lot of different options. I would suggest having them separated in separate ways, whether it's a baby gate, a leash, a longer leash that you can use in their crates, because a lot of people do crate training or start feeding a puppy in their crates to get them to enjoy it. And so even though you're doing this, what this kind of teaches them is it kind of also gets them to learn, you know, even though you're teaching them separately or feeding them separately, and also they eventually learn that they're going to be getting they're going to be getting this treat or this toy with food or whatever. So they're not as focused on what the other dog's getting. so they don't become so focused on taking that other dog's food and it doesn't turn into such an ugly situation. So it will eventually turn into a positive situation and not so like, oh my God, I've got to make sure they don't, resource guard. Another thing that would be helpful, I would suggest with your toys to keep it interesting is to kind of rotate toys. I have 2 baskets, and most of the one downstairs is usually kept out with some similar toys. The basket upstairs, I sometimes pick up and keep it out, just kind of keep them out of reach for, a couple weeks and then bring it down, and then they're really interested again. It keeps them interested, it keeps them motivated. They'll take it out, they'll put it, it just keeps things more interesting for them, keeps them more motivated. So those are a couple things that I think will help to keep your dogs stimulated, keep it interesting for you, and will be more enriching for you and them. It's about having a better quality of life for your dog and for you. I think that this, I feel it's all just bringing everything better, bringing a better quality of life for everybody. And especially in a time where, it's very stressful, but we'll get through it. And it's about coming together as a community. So if you have any questions, feel free to message me. I can do a Zoom meeting, talk further into this, or go more in depth into this. I hope that you found this useful. I hope you found this beneficial. And I hope you have a wonderful Thursday. And I know it went a lot longer than I usually do, but there's so much to talk about. So you have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you very much.